Hey there, streakers. Hopefully you're having a fantastic day. I have a special guest with me on the Streaking podcast today. One of the things that she said to me was streaking is hidden gold. I think that's something we're going to talk about today, and we'll get her perspective on it. So, without further ado, let's start streaking. What is streaking and why should you do it?
Streaking is how you set up personal winning streaks. Look at who you want to be and what you need to do to become that person. This is streaking.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Jamie.
And we are streakers. Through 30 years of marriage and 7 children, we have learned the power of consecutive consistency or streaking.
To start streaking is simple. You just follow these 3 laws. Make it laughably simple, keep a record, and join the streaking community.
Streaking is your hidden superpower. With it, you will consistently progress and grow in whatever area of life you want.
In this podcast, Jeff and I will share all the fun, exciting, serious, solemn, wonderful parts of family, spiritual, professional, and personal life, and how streaking powers it all.
So join us in the conversation, join the movement, and start streaking today. So as I mentioned, I have a special guest with me, Rose Chain. Rose has been a streaker for about 3 to 4 years. She also happens to be my daughter. But that doesn't necessarily mean that my children start streaking right away. She's one of the few that does. I'm trying to think of the 7. Does Natalia have streaks?
I think so.
And I don't think Megan does right now. But anyway, Rose and I were talking, and we were just discussing about streaking. And you had this comment. You said, you know what? Streaking is hidden gold. So expand a little bit on that, because you were thinking about, you're like, man, how could we get the word out there?
Yes. Well, I was thinking about the gold rush in California. It's like as soon as the word got out that there was gold, you could not stop people from coming, right? And I feel like that's streaking, that as soon as the word gets out about this, you're not going to be able to stop people from downloading the app and starting streaks, because it can take someone who is not consistent at all, like myself. I'm a self-proclaimed non-consistent person.
Well, let's give a little bit of background on that, and then we'll continue. So talk about your growing up years. What are the things that you like? And because I think that gives a little bit of flavor as to what it is.
Yeah. I love art. I love staying healthy and like exercising.
And artists aren't known as the most consistent people.
No. We are, it's kind of, the way I describe it is like organized chaos. I may have a pile in my room and I know where everything is in the pile, but if anybody were to be like, hey, where's this thing? I'd be like, let me just get that for you, because to explain where it is in the pile is not going to help you.
So with that, then, I love that little analogy there too. You know the pile.
Yes.
But there is a pile, and it's age your creativity or whatever else it is. And that's pretty much how you've been most of your life.
Yeah.
Is that age your creativity and some of the things that you do. So let's just get a little bit more color. What's your favorite medium for art? What is it that you do? You have a degree in art.
I do. I have a degree in art. My favorite medium is oil paints. Right now, I do a lot of watercolor because I'm a mom, and oil paints are toxic. So I can only do them when I can keep them away from my toddlers. But oil paints are my favorite for sure.
And the art that you do, mainly religious art.
Yep.
Have you done any other type of art?
A little bit. I'll do some like portraiture, or I like doing houses, like painting people's houses that they've lived in.
Which is mainly, she did for us for Christmas a booklet that had each house that we lived in, and then us sitting around the dinner table.
Yep. Reading
scriptures usually is what we typically when we do that. But you did that. That was the neatest present that I still haven't seen the completed project yet on. It's in the pile of stuff.
In the pile. You'll get it. I promise you'll get it.
So now, with that as your background, and you have 2 toddlers, so you have
a toddler and a baby.
A toddler and a baby. So a 3-year-old and what?
And a 10-month-old.
10-month-old. So life, it can be chaotic.
Yes.
Okay, so when did you decide? Because you've heard me for 10 years talk about streaks and streaking, and know what it is. But when did it work for you? When did you like make the leap to find your gold? What was it that happened?
I feel like it was actually, so it was twofold. There were two things that I was like, as I'm living my life, I don't want to lose these things. And it was art and memory, journaling. I didn't want to forget important things that were happening. And my memory is like my pile. It's in there somewhere, but I can't always call it to memory right away. So it's nice to keep a journal. And I had never been a consistent journal keeper. And then one year I remember I was actually in the Georgia house and I just thought, okay, you know what? Mom and Dad have been talking about this forever. You can just do one sentence a night. It can't hurt to try it. I'm just going to give it a shot and see what happens. And as soon as I started journaling, and actually did it for, probably 3 months. And I was like, oh my goodness, I haven't missed a day. I've journaled every day for like 3 months now. And that's when I decided to add an art streak. And I actually had to stop and start my art streak a couple of times because I made it too complicated. But now I've had my art streak for, it's probably been 4 years.
And what is your streak specifically?
My art streak is to draw or paint one line daily.
So draw or paint at least one line every day.
At least one line every day. Yep.
That's cool. So let's talk about that for just a second, because the hidden gold that you were talking about. So as you thought about when we were in the Georgia house, you're thinking, okay, Mom and Dad have been talking about this. And the first law of streaking is to make it laughably simple.
Yep.
Now, you said on your art one, you overcomplicated it. We'll get into that in just a second. So when you started your journal streak, it sounds to me like you said to yourself, fine, I'll just do one sentence because I want to do at least that. Is that kind of what unlocked it for you? Or what was it that unlocked it for you? Or was it you were into it for a while, the 3 months, and that's where it really unlocked for you your consistency gene?
I think, I'm trying to think. The one sentence made it easy enough that I was like, I think I could do this for a long time. So it started like almost that belief of like, okay, this isn't that hard. I could do this consistently. The 3 months was when I realized that I actually had quite a bit to show for it. And that's when I because one sentence, there were some nights where it was like, I'm really tired, I'm going to bed. Like that's what my journal says. Today was long, I'm going to bed. But most of my journal entries, as soon as I got writing, I actually wrote a little bit more. And I was able to, and so I had this catalog of my days. And really, I feel like what unlocked it for me, I started it in Georgia, but I actually feel like what unlocked and I don't know the timeline on this, but when I was pregnant with Heber, I realized that I had a full catalog of my like pregnancy journey because I had been writing in my journal, which is cool to look back at now. And anyway, it's really fun. But that's when I feel like after the 3 months was when I gained confidence, like, you know what? I could probably add something to this. Like I'm being consistent enough that I could probably figure out other things. So I think after the 3 months, the confidence, so I started with that little belief of like, this is easy enough. I could probably keep doing it. And then the 3 months is like, actually, I'm kind of good at this. I maybe am a consistent person. I'm going to try something else and see if I can keep being consistent with this next thing that I add.
So with the one streak that you had that was to write at least one sentence in your journal every day, that basically what I call unlocked or opened the door to consistency. Whereas before, you didn't really have a belief in yourself that you were consistent. Would that be true?
Yeah,
am I putting words in your mouth?
No, that's 100% true. I just, like if someone had asked me, oh, are you a pretty consistent person? I'd be like, no, not really. I do things off and on. I'm not super consistent though. So we see the result and you see the result. So now it's been years that you've kept a journal alive. How long is that streak? So
because it broke, but it came back.
Yeah, it broke, but it came back. So 4,200 days, almost 4,300 in total.
In total?
Yeah. So I broke it at 4,077 days. I missed one day. And I got up the next morning and I was like, no. And then, but
okay, so how was the restart on that?
So that's the thing that I've realized is that I have no fear restarting now. Where it used to be like, I was sad to lose the streak, but the sadness didn't linger because I was like, oh, but I know I'm going to jump right back on and keep streaking. Like,
right.
I know I'm going to keep writing in my journal. So the one day was sad. And I actually retroactively wrote a journal entry about the previous day so that I still have
so you still have
the record,
contiguous record
of my life. But with starting my streak over, I just knew, I was like, okay, cool. 4,000 is the number to beat, and I know I'm going to beat it.
Okay, so for perspective, let's just, because a lot of times 4,000 days sounds like a long time. I think it's also helpful. And you said it was 4,000?
4,077.
Is when you broke it?
Yeah, when I broke it.
Interesting that you know the number too.
I know.
Interesting that you have exactly what it is. But let's divide that by 365. So that's 11 years.
Wow.
Did you realize that?
No.
11 years.
So I must have
if I'm doing it right, because
yeah.
4,066... divided by, was it 66? Oh, wait, I said it wrong.
4,077.
4,077.
Yeah.
Okay, 4,077. That's days divided
Yeah.
by 365 days equals 11 years.
Ah, makes sense.
So you had that for quite a while. So you must have started that right when we were, because Mom and I have had the running streak for, I think we're in our 12th year.
Now I'm wondering if I upped it in my head.
You can look at it on the app?
Yeah, no, it says.
Yeah. 4,077 days.
Yeah.
You got it. So
it was my very first streak, though, that I think the only one I have longer than that is maybe my scripture streak. But they kind of go together.
Right.
Like I kind of decided to do those two together.
So with that, okay, so then that gave you confidence to start your art streak. Mm-hmm. Now, here's one of the things that is interesting to me. You are an artist. Mm-hmm. You like, Rose, Jamie and I say, Rose was born with a stick in her hand. Yeah. She loves to paint, to draw, and you like geology as well. I don't know how that plays into art,
I don't know, but
it's a stick and a rock.
Yeah.
Is basically what Rose has in her hands.
Yeah.
But the question is, and I know that there's people that out there and individuals who I've talked with who have asked the question, well, if I love doing it, then I really don't need a streak around it.
Not true.
Because, I'll just do it. Go ahead.
You would hope so. But what's hard is that, I don't know, to borrow a term from Franklin Covey, you've got this whirlwind. You've got everything going on around you all day that kind of just sometimes pushes out the time for things that you love unless you set time aside specifically to do it.
Yeah.
Especially as I feel like I've noticed this even more so as a mom, because there are two little people that like come up to me in the middle of whatever I'm doing.
They don't care.
No, they don't care. And Mom, I need this. Mom, I need this. Mom, can you help me with this? Mom. And it's really, really fun. And that's wonderful. But you can go through a whole day and be like, oh my gosh, I love painting. And I didn't even think about art today. And so having a streak around it makes it so that it doesn't fall off your radar in the times that your life gets busy. You're able to keep doing something with it until you can pick back up, and that love can drive you to do even longer things with it. So it's almost like instead of waiting for the season that you have time to do it, you keep it on your radar and can ebb and flow with it.
Okay, so you said that at first you set that streak too hard.
I did.
And so talk to us about that. So you had your streak. You're like, you know what? I'm going to set an art streak. Do you remember what it was that you set at first?
I do. It was one sketch a day.
Ooh. And that's too hard?
It is.
Okay. And how come? What was it about the one sketch that made it too hard?
So for me, it's that it wasn't measurable enough. Like one sketch, was it a completed drawing? Did it count if I did half a sketch? Or could I only count it if I finished the sketch? And if I had to finish the sketch, some sketches took longer than other sketches. And so if I started one, then should I start over and do a different one because that one was taking too long? And so I just it fell off. I was like, this is too much. It's too much brain power to even try and figure out where to start. I
remember when you had that you and I had a conversation about it too.
Yep.
And I suggested that you have a streak of draw at least one line.
Yeah, and I laughed.
And that was it. And there it is. See,
did.
laughably simple.
I laughed.
But why did you laugh? What was it about that made you laugh?
Because I was like, that's never going to help me as an artist.
Okay.
One line. Okay. One line.
And that is so true of every single streak. Just recently, we had someone post in the streaking app, in the My Streaks app, that they were starting a streak to read at least 30 minutes every day. Mm-hmm. And I think that there are times, actually what I have found, not even times, what I have found is timed streaks, and we'll get into this in just a minute, are actually hard streaks to keep. Mm-hmm. They're not easy. Mm-hmm. Even if you said, I'm going to read for 1 minute or 5 minutes, and there's reasons for that we'll talk about in a second. But the reason I went down that path is because when you switched your mindset to one line, because what is your streak now? What is the streak?
One line.
One line.
Draw or paint.
At
one
least
line a day.
one line
At
a
least
day.
1 line a day. Yep.
So once you got past the laughing and decided to do it, what did that do for you? How did that unlock it for you?
Well, it made it easier. It took all of the mental power I was putting towards it and got rid of it. And the, not mental, I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say. The mental noise. Whereas all of this noise around my streak of like, well, I don't know, does this count? Well, I don't want to start something too hard. And instead it was like, oh, if I start it, I can start anything right now. And I can finish it tomorrow, or
because
I can do
draw
one line a day for the rest of the month and have a drawing at the end of the month. And so it totally changed. It lowered the barrier for entry, where I didn't have to feel like I had to be at this level to start a drawing. I could be at this level and figure it out along the way, which is, I feel like what most of my streaks have done for me is help me realize, oh, I can start. I'm complicating starting, and that's causing me to not start at all. Whereas when you simplify the barrier to start, then you actually get further than you think you would after you've already gotten past the starting point.
Which is kind of interesting to think about, because one of the major things is that you think that doing something laughably small won't get you down the road at all. Mm-hmm. And in actuality, it's the complete opposite. It's trying to do something very large actually doesn't get you progressing, whereas something small, like drawing a simple line, will get you where you need to go. So with that, as you look now, as you start, and what's that streak at? So how many days do you have that streak?
I have to check that one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's see. 684.
So 684 days is almost 2 years that you've had that. You have a degree in art. You've entered paintings into art competitions. You've sold your art. All of those things. And how much would you credit with what you've done with your art to that streak of at least one line? I mean, I know there's a lot of training and everything that goes into it, but what would you, as you look at, and I'm not trying to say the streak did it all, it's more so, what did the streak help you continue to do? What was it that it allowed you to do?
That's a great question. It allowed me to recognize that I can keep art in my life. So especially because as I've become a mom, it's hard to balance. And it does feel like, well, my kids need me, so I'm just going to dedicate all of my time to them. But what streaking has done, which has led to a lot of these things of being able to enter artwork in shows and being able to continue, is that because I am like, okay, I don't have to be always creating huge paintings every day in order to be an artist. I'm just going to in small ways, keep up my skills, keep learning, keep thinking about it, keep practicing every single day, so that when the opportunity comes that I do want to enter in a show, or I do have someone that comes to me and says, hey, can you paint this for me? I'll pay you for it or whatever. I have the ability to do that, and I can allot more time to it then. But in the times when it's a little bit more hectic, or I feel like my family is taking more time, I can still keep it on my plate. I'm not getting rid of it. I'm not saying, oh, sorry, I was an artist, but I'm not anymore. I can keep it in the present.
That's really good. That's really, really fantastic. So with that being said, had you not had the streak?
I think it would have fallen off for a while. In fact, I think right now I would have said, oh yeah, I'm not an artist anymore.
Because you would have just let it go away. Mm-hmm. So recently you're in the midst of moving. Mm-hmm. And so your streak, but you keep your streaks alive.
I do.
So
yes.
What has it been like with the, 2 children, craziness of moving, all of that's happening? Are you doing the floor of the streak? Have you found what's, because I know you have, how many streaks do you have now today?
I think I have 10.
10 or 11?
Yeah, 10 or 11 streaks. Oh, 15.
15, there it is.
It's nice that it says it right at the top.
Yeah.
15, yeah. So the nice thing is I've kept the streak alive. A lot of days it is the floor where I'm getting in bed, and I'll do digital drawings on my phone, so that because I tend to always have my phone with me, and so if I forget a pen and paper, I have something else that I can draw on. And a lot of times it is that one line or adding some color or something to a drawing on my phone. But again, it leaves space for then I get an idea and I take it from where it was and I go, oh, okay, actually, I really love that. I'm going to develop that more and dedicate some more time to it. And I actually have one on my phone that I just finished that I'm going to take and make large and do it differently.
That's pretty cool.
Because it gives me the ideas and it keeps it in the forefront of my mind.
So that brings up an interesting point of streaking, and that is dependencies. And what I mean by dependencies is in order for you to complete your streak, you have to have a pen and paper, pencil and paper, or like what you have is your phone. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that makes a streak laughably simple, and this is just for everyone who's listening in, what makes it laughably simple is that your dependencies are easy to have with you. So for example, you'll be appreciative of this. I just started a streak. It is now, I'll tell you what the streak is, but I'll tell you how many days I've done it, and then I'll tell you how I've done it, because it was one that I had to think a lot about in order to make happen the way that I want to. So it's under my continuous learner, and it's 63-day streak. Now here's the streak. Play at least one note on a piano every day.
Oh, that's a big dependency if you think about
right,
it.
Right, if on a piano. So
yeah.
if I can't haul our piano everywhere.
Yeah.
So I had to think a lot about it as far as a piano, and I intentionally worded it that way because I have a piano on my iPad. That's, just basically an octave. And when I'm traveling, which isn't as much as what it used to be, but when I'm traveling, I'll open that up and I'll play, one or two things. Now, I played the piano when I was very young, and I was proficient to be able to read some music and do some things, but I went away from it for a long time. And this is what I think you were talking about with art. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to bring this particular streak up, is I didn't play the piano for a very, very long time, and therefore have lost the ability to read notes. So this streak now, that's 63 days, is play at least. I'm learning to read notes again. And I'll tell you what, it can be so frustrating at times because I knew what I once knew.
Yeah.
But it didn't retain. Mine did not stay in my pile of stuff.
Yes.
But now I'm going back to it. And the other thing that's streaking, and I'm going to ask you about this too, the streak has taught me is patience.
Yes.
Patience with myself, and patience with, because I have other streaks that I know that I've kept alive like you for, I don't know how many. I mean, I'm only in 3. I don't have a 4,000. I have a 3,000. I have 3,000. You actually have streaks that are longer than mine.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious how I did that, because is the app even 11 years old?
Well, the app, see, because you could put it in.
I was going to say, I was tracking it in my journal before. Like, I have a little tally count.
The app is only 3 years old, but we all have streaks that are longer.
I think I tracked it on my mission.
I think you did. Yeah. So, and which is great. I mean, and so, but had I had a streak to play at least one note on a piano since the time I was 12, which is when I was really good, and if I were able to do that and had the streak, I think today I would be a proficient. I would be a piano player, just like what you call yourself, an artist.
Yep.
Because I kept it alive. But some may say, well, one note, really? And the reason why, and I'm going to get your thoughts on this, is because your mind is continually working on it. You still have the mindset of being an artist. I have the mindset of being a pianist. And I hope to be at that level again someday.
Yes.
But I'm giving myself grace and patience and being able to say, it's one note and I'm going to do that. So here's the questions for you. And you probably had a couple of thoughts, but your thoughts on patience and grace with yourself, as well as, just that continuation of the streak.
So I think the nice thing is that being someone who's been streaking for a long time, it is very encouraging to look back and see where I was and see how things have changed to where I am now. And that I feel like gives me helps with patience and grace, because I recognize now I have an active record of how much time it took me with consistent effort to get where I am. And so with art specifically, I did all kinds of artwork in high school, all kinds of artwork. I never painted or drew consistently every day. I always waited for a class. And so because of that, when you look at my high school artwork, you can tell what that class was focusing on, because I have tons of animal paintings or a whole bunch of eyeballs because we were focusing on the eye, and so it's almost like, oh, what are you? But now, because I've been consistently painting or drawing every day and thinking about it every day, I actually have been able to develop my style. And when I go to a drawing, I'm not waiting for someone to prompt me and say, oh, do this, oh, do this. I'm thinking about, okay, I really like this style and I really love this and I know my ability, and what could I do to execute this idea in the way that I like to portray it? And so it helped me develop this flavor, but that wouldn't happen without consistently thinking about it and doing it every day. I can say that confidently because when I didn't do it every day and waited for a class, I have a whole bunch of different things. But when I do it every day, because I'm thinking about it, that style developed. So giving patience and having patience of, okay, I'm going to start now, knowing that the beginning is going to be maybe a little bit hard and maybe sometimes discouraging, where you're looking at it and you're like, that one line, that's it. That's my drawing. But then down the road, you can look back and say, oh, that one line actually helped me. And not necessarily because that one line was a stroke of genius, but because that one line allowed me to keep the mindset of, I'm an artist. I'm going to keep working on this. There is growth to be had here, and therefore I'm going to keep pursuing it. And I feel like that's what streaking has done for me. And that's where it's helped me develop patience and almost develop a consistency muscle where I'm like, you know what? It's a workout. I know I have to work out before I get strong.
That's really good. So I want to talk about the hidden gold in just a second, but there was one place I wanted to go, which we talked about time and time streaks and so forth. One of the areas that I have been focused a lot on in my personal studies of streaking and consistency and everything else is the idea of time. Now, years ago, Stephen Covey introduced what's called the time matrix. The time matrix basically has 4 quadrants and rates activities by their urgency and their importance. So if a activity is urgent and important, that's quadrant 1. Okay. That's if you're looking at it, if you're envisioning it, it's the upper left-hand quadrant. Okay, if there is something that is important but not urgent, that's going to be quadrant 2, which is right next to, it's the upper right-hand quadrant.
Okay.
Okay. Quadrant 3 is the lower left hand, and that's urgent but not important. Okay. And quadrant 4 is not urgent, not important.
Okay.
Okay. So to give a little bit of context around each of these different quadrants, quadrant 1 is, like, for example, Heber was sick the other night. You're going to take care of that.
Yeah.
That activity is going to be done no matter what.
Yep.
Your house flooded.
Yep.
That's going to be things that are going to be taken care of
Urgent
immediately.
and important.
Urgent and important. It's got to be done right now. Important but not urgent is what I call the growth zone. That's where streaks live. Is in the not urgent, but highly important.
Yes.
Becoming an artist, being an artist,
Yep.
drawing at least one line every day. Never going to be in the urgent, important category. Will always be in the not urgent, important category.
Yep.
Whereas, okay, so just continuing on, quadrant 3 is really where you have items that, it's urgent in the sense that it's an email that you received, it's someone asking you to do something, it's a favor that you want, but it's not important in the overall scheme of things. And then, and quadrant 3 can be this place where it sucks a lot of your time, because it's something that seems like you're being busy and getting the right things done, whereas you're not. And quadrant 4, I always like that. This is me on, for me, it's YouTube Shorts, and just get going.
Yep.
And have no idea, no concept
Not
of what time
urgent,
has gone by.
Not important.
Right. Ridiculous people doing ridiculous things, and
What's
me
funny
watching
is
it.
that I think you would think that there is nothing in that quadrant. Like, how could you do things that are not urgent and not important? But there's a lot of stuff out there.
There's a lot. Okay, so here's my thing, though. I think that the time matrix is incorrectly labeled.
Okay.
It's not time. It's activity. It should be the activity matrix, because here's what happens when you think of it as a time matrix. And this is where I wanted to get to as far as timed streaks. You put your emphasis on the clock.
Yep.
When in actuality, it's on the activity. So you do Q2 activities every single day because you have a streak, and you're not concerned with, I've got to get an hour of time to draw a complete sketch.
Yep.
I've got to block out 30 minutes of time in order to write in my journal. That just does not work. And so it's not. And so what I'm doing is evolving the time matrix to the activity matrix. And the question is, for each one of us, do we have streaks around the activities that will allow us to grow? And what is important is, on some days, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to go to this, is because you're moving, your apartment's flooding, you're doing all these different things that you're trying to get. Well, you're not going to have a lot of time to do the activities in quadrant 2. And in fact, most people at that moment will completely forego quadrant 2, and quadrant 1 will be there because all my time is sucked up in quadrant 1. Whereas with streaking, because you make it laughably simple, because you have it in a place that it's highly important, not urgent, and you want to keep the streak alive, so it makes it a little bit of that urgency, right? Well, now, when you have that, you look at it and say, wait a second, I can do at least this much, even though most of the time was sucked up in activities that were urgent, that had to be done.
Yep.
Give me your reaction on that. So that was a long explanation, but it looked like you had some thoughts.
So 2 thoughts. First of all, being in a creative, not semi-career. I'm not focusing my efforts on career yet, but I know that I will someday. The idea that time equals quality is very problematic, because as an artist with varying abilities can get things done way faster. And so you can go to a client and they can say, oh, I want this painting. But if you're getting paid by the hour, you're encouraged to draw that out, even if maybe you could have it done in 24 hours. You could turn it around real quick.
There's actually a theory that says work will fill the time allotted to it.
Yes.
And so if you plan 2 hours, you will fill that 2 hours.
Yes.
Whereas if you say the activity is get the painting done,
you could get it done way faster. You could
Right.
need only an hour
Right.
to get it done and still have a very beautiful, equally high quality piece of artwork. So I was thinking about that and how already I've come up against this and realized in pricing or in how you present yourself to a client, you have to help them understand whether I do this fast or slow, you will get top quality work. And then my second thought was, we are moving, our apartment flooded, both of my kids have been sick in the past 2 weeks, and I have not lost any of those important but not urgent things that I love doing every day.
Wow.
I've drawn every day. I've read with my kids every day. I've exercised every day. I've done a little bit of yoga every day. Like all of those things that are important but not urgent in the times where urgent and important took up a lot of time, I haven't lost any of those things.
See, that's pretty amazing. That's why I wanted to bring that up, because it is a mind shift to be of the opinion that it's the activity that's important, the activity matrix. And so you make it laughably simple because streaks exist in quadrant 2 or the growth quadrant. And as long as you are focused on the activity and not the time that it takes, but making it laughably simple, then you're always going to have that growth in your life.
Yep.
Okay, so let's conclude with this. You said streaking is hidden gold.
Yes.
Okay, why did you say that? What was it about that? And we'll just finish on this.
Because I feel like as soon as people discover streaking, as soon as they recognize the value it can bring to their life in being consistent and keeping those important but not urgent things in their life, even through crazy hectic times, I don't think we'll be able to stop people from downloading the app and trying to use streaking and implementing it in their life.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I found it worked in my life. You found it worked in yours. My Streaks is the app. Rose, thank you so much for joining me today on the Streaking Podcast. My Streaks is the app that you can download and follow Rose there. You can follow her streaks. She posts every once in a while to show you what it is that she's been working on and doing. The My Streaks app is at Apple App Store or Google Play, and you can start with one streak and build your streaks from there. Listen to the Streaking Podcast. If you wouldn't mind just taking a moment to like and subscribe, we'd appreciate that on the Streaking Podcast. Finally, if you have any questions at all about streaking, I am more than willing to answer those. My email address is Jeffrey, Jeffery, at mystreaksapp.com. Again, that's Jeffrey, Jeffery, at mystreaksapp.com. Until we talk together again, I hope that you have a marvelous, fantastic, wonderful day. And as always, keep streaking.
It's too simple not to do. It's the little things that